So we all know that Matthew Perry was very publicly dealing with an addiction problem for years. So when he was found dead in his hot tub, I figured it had something to do with his addiction problems. And then when his cause of death was revealed, and it said that it was because of the acute effects of ketamine, I didn't think much of it. Hey, he was an addict or an ex-addict, someone that was struggling with these issues for years. This is not a big surprise, right? It is what it is. Happens every day. Maybe not to celebrities, but hey, people are dropping like flies all around us because of their addiction problems. So at first glance, I didn't think much of it. Sounded about right to me. But then you hear that, oh wait, he died because of the effects of ketamine, but it just so happens that his doctors had him on a ketamine infusion treatment. Literally giving the dude ketamine, right? But they said, oh, well, the last known treatment was a month before he died, so it can't be because of these treatments. Basically pushing all of the blame on Matthew Perry, trying to take any of the accountability away from his doctors. And to be clear, we don't know exactly what happened, right? But to hear that this dude died because of ketamine and that his doctors were giving him ketamine, I feel like that's just a gigantic red flag. I mean, I get the dude's an addict, but are we just going to ignore this huge red flag? Are we going to ignore the elephant in the room? Dude died because of ketamine. Turns out his doctors were giving him ketamine. Are we not going to put two and two together here? Are we not going to connect the dots? And when it comes to connecting the dots, you don't got to go all over the place. It's like a straight line. Died from ketamine. Doctors gave him ketamine. Connect the dots, people. So I thought that was kind of weird. And I know that people are going to write it off as if it's nothing because the dude was a struggling addict. But, you know, a lot of weird stuff goes down in Hollywood. A lot of weird stuff just goes down in the world in general. But I just feel like this was something that people should be questioning more. And now it turns out that one of Matthew Perry's ex-girlfriends is speaking out. And she says that she has questions. And she believes that his doctors should be investigated. That law enforcement should be looking into his doctors right now. Because she believes that there may be a connection between them and Matthew Perry's death. And I agree with her. I'm not here to say that Matthew Perry was a sober person. I'm not here to say that. I'm not here to say that it's unbelievable or impossible for Matthew Perry to have died because of his addiction problems. But I'm not going to ignore that his doctors were aiding him in these problems. And I'm not going to ignore that they were giving him the very substances that supposedly caused his death. And the fact that everyone's just writing this off and no one's talking about this is kind of odd to me. It makes it even weirder for me. But I want to go ahead and dive into this article. Let's find out what's going on here. Matthew Perry's ex-girlfriend calls for his doctors to be investigated over the deadly dose of ketamine he took before drowning in his hot tub and says it's unlikely the late Friends star bought drugs from the streets. An ex-girlfriend of Matthew Perry has called for his doctors to be investigated after it was confirmed that ketamine caused his death. Perry was found face down in the hot tub of his Los Angeles home on October 28th. On Friday, the medical examiner report was released, revealing that he died from the acute effects of ketamine and drowning, with the actor having similar quantities of ketamine in his system as a hospital patient under general anesthetics. Perry had been undergoing ketamine infusion therapy for depression, but his final session was a week and a half before he died, meaning it did not directly cause his death. Katie Edwards, who dated him in 2006 and worked as his assistant in 2011 at the height of his addiction, said that she has lots of unanswered questions. Edwards, who used to buy Perry's drugs for him, said that she did not believe he bought ketamine from the street and said his doctors needed to explain further. I'm pretty sure that in Matthew's brain, ketamine infusions at a doctor's would count as still being sober, she said. In his brain, it's not the same as going on the street to buy crack or heroin. The medical examiner reported that Perry had been sober for 19 months and that there was no trace of heroin, cocaine, meth, or fentanyl in his system. And that's another detail that a lot of people seem to be glossing over. The medical examiner says that he was able to determine that Matthew Perry was sober for at least 19 months. He wasn't on any of these other substances. Not a single trace of these other substances in his body. The only thing they found was the ketamine. And it just so happens that he was going to get ketamine infusion treatments from his doctor. Now, like I said, if we were to connect the dots on this one, straight line right across. I would think that if you're this big bad addict and you're out of control, that you would probably be doing, a multitude of things. You would probably be taking multiple substances, but no. The only substance found is the exact substance that he's going to his doctor to get. But let's go ahead and go further. Edwards said that she felt that the ketamine treatment would have pushed him back to doing drugs beyond the doctor's office. That probably was the stepping stone for him to go back to doing drugs, she said. I think the doctors who had been working with Matthew should be investigated. I'm pretty sure he would have had an in with a doctor. It's very hard to get ketamine on the street, but it is very easy for a doctor or nurse to get it. Edwards said that she was not surprised that he was found dead in the hot tub because he often took drugs and then got in the water. I wasn't surprised when the medical examiner's report dropped, she said. I already knew what it was, so it wasn't shocking to me. I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly what happened, but I do know Matthew as a person and a friend, and I know the patterns that led up to this. I could see it from a mile away. He didn't seem right during the last couple of weeks of his life. The sober people who knew him have never hung out with him when he was getting high, so they would know the signs. So they wouldn't know the signs. She said his final Instagram post of him alone in the hot tub he would die in was a sign that he was using drugs again. Edwards, a mother of 4 who now runs a horse ranch in California, said she last spoke to Perry when his autobiography was published last year, detailing his shocking lifetime of abuse and of drugs and years of rehab. Matthew loved to experiment with different drugs, she said. He would want to try different things to see what worked best for him. I remember he got heroin at one point, and one of his friends showed him how to smoke it. He was always down for trying different stuff, but I'm sure the ketamine was a new thing because I never saw him doing it. On Friday, his cause of death was officially confirmed. So, folks, here we have this woman that's close to Matthew Perry, saying that Matthew Perry liked to try all types of drugs, but she never saw him use ketamine. So we know that Matthew Perry had this habit. We know that Matthew Perry wasn't a stranger to doing all of these other substances, even really hardcore stuff. Matthew Perry would do it. Yet not a single one of these substances were found in his body. Not a single one of these other substances was listed as one of the reasons as to why he died. The only thing listed is ketamine. And the only place that it seems like he was getting ketamine from was his doctors. People thought that maybe I was being a little too conspiracy theory-ish, conspiratorial. People thought I was just, asking too many questions when I first covered this story a couple of days ago. But nah. I'm not going to lay and place all of the blame at the feet of Matthew Perry's doctors. But if you ask me, they had their hands all over this death. That's how it appears to me. This is not far out there. I'm not saying that there was this big, deep, dark, evil plot to kill Matthew Perry. I don't think that's the case. But I do think that the doctors gave Matthew Perry the ketamine. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be stupid when they list the dude's cause of death as because of ketamine, and knowing that he's getting ketamine from his doctors. I'm not going to sit here and not put two and two together. I mean, the proof is kind of in the pudding, folks. Nothing's probably going to be done, but I agree with her. There needs to be an investigation. All of this energy that's put into taking drug dealers off the streets, put it into taking these doctors off the streets who are willy-nilly passing out all of this addictive stuff to people everywhere. It goes to show that the powers that be, our government officials, they don't care about drug dealers. They don't care about the fact that people are dying because of addiction. They don't care about the fact that people are dealing this stuff on the streets. The only thing our government, the powers that be, care about is that they're not making money off of what's being sold in the streets. Okay? They want their cut. If they could tax drug deals, they would. Okay? If they could, they would. So they want to get rid of the street level people because they have dealers of their own. And their dealers aren't in a dark alley. Their dealers aren't walking down the street in the worst neighborhoods. Their dealers are in the nicest, cleanest doctor's offices and hospitals you can think of across America. Chances are, a lot of you saw one of these dealers this week, or you're going to go see one soon. All I'm saying is be careful. Because we have reached a point in American society where they're just dishing out all of these medications left and right. It's not really about your health. It's about lining their pockets. They don't care how many addicts they create. They don't care how many lives they ruin. They don't care if the meds work or not. All they care about is making that money. So keep that in mind next time you're at the doctor's office. But with that being said, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you're feeling generous, you could donate to the channel via CashApp or Super Thanks. But for totally free, you can help the channel in multiple ways. Sharing the video, liking the video, subscribing, all of that good stuff. And I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.